Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Guadalupe Salgado. I'm Interim Associate Dean of the Emeritus program. Thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started, say big thank you and big shout out to Jesse, who, as always, works very, very hard to get these online receptions going and to get the gallery up and running, but it was my fault completely. He has to work extra hard this time, and he managed to set up beautifully as always. So I'd like to introduce our wonderful curator, Jesse Benson.
Guadalupe Salgado, our boss and who leads the way at Emeritus. What a lovely human being. Thank you so much for being so kind. And no, we only get to do this because of you. So thank you for being supportive at all times. And so we are so happy to be here today to support and celebrate Uvi Poznansky and to resume our online programming sort of schedule for the fall here. We had an exhibition, of course, in the summer, but we had a live exhibition opening reception, that time. And I love both versions. I'm glad that we get to do both versions in here because I like this version where we get to speak to the artist also. And you see her on screen in front of you right now, the one and only Uvi Poznansky, Emeritus student, but well beyond that, she is many, many things. Uvi, would you mind giving us a little bit of introduction to your biography before we get into the show?
Sure. I have dabbled with both writing and art. I'm a USA Today bestselling author with several series, ranging from historical fiction to romance, to poetry, to horror, even children books. And in terms of art, I have dabbled with various types of media in sculpture, from bronze to porcelain to paper, which I love, and it's my current focus is on paper engineering. And in terms of painting, I've done watercolor, oils. I love drawing. I like shadows and lights. In terms of my bio, I was born in Israel and graduated from the Technion in Haifa in architecture, of all things. And when I came to the US, I graduated from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute with a Master of Computer Science. With a Master of Architecture, and then moved to the University of Michigan and graduated with Master of Computer Science. So that's basically it.
Wow, that is an unbelievable. Well, first of all, your just intellectual capacity is so remarkable. We've known that because I've worked with you for several years in Emeritus classes in sculpture specifically. And what we find from Uvi is that, I mean, this sort of term, Renaissance person, a Renaissance woman is sort of thrown around a lot, but this is truly a person that has mastery across multiple disciplines. And listen to her humbleness, dabbled, she says. Wait till you see the bronze that she dabbled in the gallery when you go and see it. You don't dabble in bronze too much, by the way. You just, especially on this level. So we're going to see her mastery. And yes, what a kind and humble and sweet person to be around. We're going to go right to it, shall we? Let's go ahead first to show everybody. And I think that you know most of this, which is that we have this dedicated website, smc.edu/Emeritus Gallery, where you all have presumably arrived tonight to click on our link to join the event this evening. You can also click this button right here, which is the documentation of the exhibition online here. Well, through Facebook, but you don't have to have Facebook in order to view it. It still pops up for you to be able to see it. And here's the overview. Of course, this is a show that must be seen in person. If you have the opportunity to see this in person, do not miss it. It's up till November 1st. It's an absolute stunner. It's playful, it's dramatic, it's theatrical. It's a range of material approaches. Wait till you see that she also has not just these works in painting and sculpture, but also these video animations that she does in which she actually animates some of her artwork. We're going to watch those this evening. You can also watch them in the gallery, which we'll tell you about by scanning QR codes in the gallery and watching them on your phone. So you can experience them in conjunction with the, in the context of the exhibition. It's really cool because some of the sculptures that are in the show are actually animated in the animations, her video animations, which she also, the animations are based on her writing, her poetry, samples of her, or, loosely sometimes based on it. She also casts actors and directs these things. It's an unbelievable set of achievements we're going to see tonight. Without further ado, that was just the overview. Let's go ahead and go into this, image by image a little bit. We're going to see, some of the installation shots here first, and then we can kind of break down more about each individual work. I do want to note that we have a little bit of information on the website about Uvi here. You can also go to her website specifically, which I pulled up just to note. But you can link to that through our exhibition site here, right there, and has a lot of information and also the opportunity to purchase copies of her books, which you can do at the gallery too. If you go to Emeritus, there's copies of them sitting in the gallery. Please don't swipe them for free, even though they look like some people might mistake that. They are, Uvi's put them out there so you can peruse them. And if you'd like to buy a copy, you can speak to one of the people at the office downstairs there, right? Or you can buy them through your website, correct, Uvi, or through
Absolutely, yeah. They're for sale on Amazon, and almost each one of my books has several editions, so you can buy them either on Kindle, you can buy them as paperback, hardcover, and maybe most enjoyable as an audiobook.
Do you read the audiobooks, by the way? Is it your
No,
book?
I'm working with professional voice actors, and it's a joy to be able to collaborate with, people at this level. As you'll see, some of my animations have used their voices.
Absolutely, and we'll see that in a while. But yes, the combination of skill sets here that we're talking about is unbelievable. Some of you have seen some of Uvi's works in the student art shows. We've showcased a couple of her animations online. We also showed one of her paintings earlier this year. But to see the whole exhibition in its totality, we really get a sense of this person. And there's humor and play, and there's serious drama. She talked about being willing to write across all spectrums, from horror to children's to romance. And it's just, it's truly about human experience. And there are deep moments in the show, heavy moments that we'll see, and there are playful light moments. And then just it's a spectacle to be seen as well. It's a really dramatic exhibition in certain ways. Sometimes I have this sort of benches in the gallery. We took them out this time. There's some sculpture to be viewed. It just felt right for this show. We also kept it relatively minimal in some ways, although there's a lot going on. It's very generous. And as you'll see, this is just a hint at it. One of her hanging paper sculptures here. There's work from above, there's work around, there's work low down by the ground. So make sure you look all around the space when you arrive. Yeah, we're going to sort of just peruse this installation shot stuff first to get a glimpse of the overall show. Some of the kind of juxtapositions, and you can feel some of her sensibilities here this way. And then we really want to hear from you, Uvi, if that's okay, on your individual ideas on the works. Then we'll watch the video.
Sure.
If that works out for everybody. And we can also discuss those videos too. Now, Uvi, you had some specific ideas about how you wanted to lay out the show. Like, for instance, this work, you wanted to put it in juxtaposition with actually a different sculptural work that we can't see in this scene, but is close by, paperwork. Can you describe some of your thoughts as to why you wanted to juxtapose things certain ways?
Sure. The painting, the oil painting of the skeleton that is kneeling before the viewer, that was done some years ago. I used the skeleton in Emeritus College, in fact, and the idea was, this is a late lover. He has been away from his girlfriend, who was waiting patiently for him over the years. And now that he's old and fragile and needs help himself, he comes back to her, begging for her to take him in. And he comes back. You can see the frame of the door at the side, where she has carved over the years the sentence, a diamond short, a decade late. This is when he comes
later
with a ring that doesn't have a diamond, with wilted bouquet of roses, and a decade late. And when he offers her this diamondless ring, and she opens the door, she in fact is you. You are opening the door for him, and you are throwing at him the diamondless ring. So that was the character here, very pretentious, very ready to use whatever he can to survive. And years later, actually this last year, I created a different expression of this character in paper, and maybe later we'll see the animation of that character.
Absolutely, as will we see actual close-up of this image more specifically once we get out of the installation shots, and we'll have the actual title image or information up with this as well. But yes, you chose this as the opening image in a way to the show, if you will, in that it's on the sort of title wall, or it's one of the first walls to enter the space and look at. When we give the walkthrough sheet, we call this wall 1. In a way, it's sort of like one of the first things that you see in the show, although there's lots of different viewing angles, but one could consider it one of the first things. And I know it's specific to a couple of, yeah, like it has a relationship to one of the animations that we're going to see later. And then, like you talked about, this sort of the character of this figure that's out for romance, but it has some absurd ways of falling short. There are some interesting thematic, maybe connections to other works of yours in that regard too, which I think are really funny and playful and are part of the human story that you bring to this. And your characters, all these, you know, as we see them in sculpture form, they already have this human, you know, of course, like very anthropomorphic, alive, living sort of quality, but wait till you see them animated, folks, too. And we can, you know, we can really sort of like they literally have voices at that point, and we can really think of them as characters with voices and feelings and expression. And listen, let's scan through quickly, because I do want to go to, as quickly as possible here, to get to the individualized works. Oops, what's going on there? Oops, a little glitch. You know, to actually, and maybe we'll go back and look more at the installation shots in a moment, but since you started talking about some of the individual ideas, maybe we should do that first, in fact, and then go back to the installation shots a little bit more. Let's start then by looking at this unbelievable work, which I was noting when she talked about dabbling in bronze. Can we take flight? Clearly a work about relationships, possibly of some sort, or at least one relationship of dancers here.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a lover of dance. And this is one piece out of 3 pieces that describe this evolving relationship between the male figure and the female figure. The female figure is done marble-like. It's finished as if she is marble. And the male figure is finished as if he's made out of metal. And he's totally, although his outline is strong and manly, he's very fragile. He is all hollow and made out of little pieces. So there's a great contrast between the 2 figures, just graphically speaking. And when I first sculpted the first piece in this series, something that happens to me a lot of times when I create a piece, it creates a voice in my mind of the figures. And I had this voice of his and hers in a kind of a duet or dialogue. And that night, when I was sculpting at night, this poem came to me, and when I got up in the morning, I wrote it on paper and never changed a word in it. And from the verses of this poem, that's where I took each one of the pieces is an expression of what the verse is talking about. So can we take flight? He is holding her. Maybe she wants to fly, or maybe it's an impossibility to fly. But this is what ballet is all about, in a way. It's the way to soar, and then the impossibility to soar.
How interesting that we're having a Facebook minor glitch at this exact moment. I think it's all fine. The inability to soar, as my inability to soar through the Facebook here, but this is really an amazing thing to see in person, and we have to view it in the round. So I took as many photographs as I could of it, but you must see it in person, because the surprise of the sort of engineering of this moment being a gap is quite incredible. The illusion, like that she described to me, that he's holding her, but no, in fact, she's holding him, is quite compelling. And then, yes, the nature of this, the sort of juxtaposition of the 2 characters, their difference, their contrast, but their elegant relationship, and it's elegant from all angles, folks. It's really something, which is an incredible achievement in sculpture. And then, of course, I don't know if you caught this, but she used this patina effect to make it look like this is marble. Of course, this is all bronze. But the marble effect, which has this sort of like classical, antiquity sculpture quality, is also something that adds to this work, in my estimation. Look at every detail of this. It's totally remarkable.
And this verse in this poem is her voice saying, I see him in my mind. He moves, he stirs tonight. But when I come to him, our limbs entwined, that arm wraps around me. It holds me and controls me. Can we take flight?
And we're going to actually hear some of the poetry that accompanies some of these works in the animations. And so, I think that maybe I'll come back on here and onto the Facebook page and post some of the poetry as well in written form as it accompanies some of these works. If Uvi is interested in that idea, I think she might be. And that way we can sort of really link her thinking in these moments. And then the animation drives it even further. So wait till we get to that as well. But that's like just, we put that on the back wall. I've never had just a single sculpture on the back wall of the gallery. But this one had such drama, and it was clearly going to hold the space so elegantly. It just really did so much work for the whole room. And an incredible achievement.
I think it's my favorite piece of everything she's done. I just love it. It's gorgeous.
Is that who's that speaking? Was that Linda? I thought so. And Linda, you know her well.
Yeah, she just does
Sure.
remarkable things in so many media, but that just grabs me, that sculpture. It's just gorgeous. Gorgeous.
I mean, it's like you want to weep. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you do.
I know. And she can take us there. She
Yeah.
can take us all the way.
Yeah. When you show the video, it makes you weep. Yeah.
But wait till you see the thing dancing in a little while. I mean, we can already it already feels like it's dancing in its sculptural state, and then she animates it further. It's unbelievable. Yes, and Linda has seen some of that stuff from class. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip past that work there. That's Mother and Child, another bronze, where she is able to get this like really unbelievable touching sensibility out of this, very cold material on some level. Are you sculpting these out of clay first and then having them cast in bronze, or how are you achieving them?
I'm using oil-based clay, which is
Plasticine.
which is always pliable. It never dries, it never shrinks. Which when I was sculpting in clay, that's heartbreaking. When a piece that you have worked for so long cracks or doesn't dry properly. So the oil-based clay is the solution for me, and I work on an armature. But the first thing that I do for any of my sculptures is away from the armature. The armature holds the pose, but what I do is first of all sculpt the hands, the feet, and the face, because to me there's a emotional expression not only in the face but also in the hands, the way they touch a figure, the way they touch each other, and even the feet have an expression. And then I put it all together on the armature.
Well, you saw how many detailed shots I got of the other work. The feet, there's expression, there's like, you can really feel that you are thinking about that. And I agree with you completely. That's very true. And your works are so much about human embrace. There is a big part of that going on in the work. Very interesting, very compelling, very powerful, beautiful. And then we get a totally different type of work here. This is one of the paper works, and very different from some of the other ones in that it is a series of sort of little pictorial vignettes, if you will, and it's sculpted in this interesting sort of paper shape. Is the shape something specific, or is it just an abstract shape, or how did you come to that shape?
Well, the part, it's made basically of three parts if you look vertically. There's a crown at the top, which is something we can talk about later. There's the main part with all the facets with the drawings, and then there's the paper pedestal that holds it up. So the main part, the one with all the illustrations, that whole area is one piece of paper that I wrap around. I have here another example. Where, the design that I make is I score the design and then push in and out to create this the shapes, the way they go in and pop out. And then on every facet of the sculpture that you see before you, this is actually a piece that's called Creation of the World. And when you turn it around, it goes from chaos at the beginning, then the creation of vegetation, and then the creation of living things in the air, in the water, and on the ground, and then the Garden of Eden, and then the tree of knowledge and the temptation scene, and finally the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. And at the very, very top, which you can see here, is the eye of God.
And so it's, you know, obviously, it's interesting because you are willing in your work to draw from, certainly, religious or specifically biblical or a Jewish sort of aesthetics or histories or connotations. You're also willing to bring those things into very contemporary lights, even satirize them on occasion, playfully, certainly in your writing as well, I know. But you also have a real connection and faith and all that, and one can see that that's sort of honest in your work, yet you also have a critical distance from it as an intellectual and all that, you know, which I think is an interesting balance. And I think it comes through the work really nicely because, yeah, I think that one has to always be, you know, careful with faith and how one comes across in their opinions about it. And I think that your work really feels like it's open, and it's just hopeful. And there's a lot of things that can be read in the human condition out of it. And there are things that if you were so inclined to read more specifically from certain directions culturally, then you might, you know. And this particular work, I think that, like, you know, the play, I love your every time you note that the eye of God, you have a little smirk. Like even in the gallery, you're like, oh, that's the eye of God. You know, it's like playfully the eye of God up on top. And just so you know, folks, it's too tall to see it, like in this space. So we were toying with the idea, or Uvi was toying with the idea of maybe a mirror to be able to see it. But we decided in the end we would just reveal it this way. But you can't really see it, but you know that the eye of God is up there. It's too tall to be seen in the gallery. It's pretty funny to me and playful. And also, yeah, and like true to your faith and things that, you know, I think I would assume are specific to your things that you care about, you know, as a human. And it comes through. I mean, the care and the interest in this shape, which I asked you about, like, I don't know if it has a specific meaning or something, this type of fold, does it? Or are these just kinds of folds that you're learning
Well,
about?
you can think about it as the Sistine Chapel in with all the facets, except this one is all rolled into one object. So
I got it. Right. It's interesting. I think that it's one piece of paper matters conceptually. And then it's also an incredible achievement of the folding and scoring and sort of, you know, combination of paper folding and almost kirigami techniques and all types of things happening there. Outstanding achievement as an object. And by the way, folks, it is really intact. It's well constructed. Our engineering is really, really strong. It's balanced. Not easy to achieve this stuff. Like when you see later on her mobiles, the balance of the paper, it's really remarkable how she's able to engineer it, probably due to some of her architectural expertise. Like maybe, I don't know.
Well,
but it's almost
the nice thing about gluing it, because even the main part is glued along there's a seam, you know, when you round the paper, there's a seam where you have, the seam is seamless. You really cannot tell which is the seam that is glued. And the same thing for all the seams that are glued at the bottom and on the crown. Because
it's unbelievable. This object, folks, weighs less than a pound. You know, it's all paper. It's one piece of paper. It's an unbelievable achievement of form, you know. And then each execution is worth looking at. Yeah, it does have that Sistine Chapel-like quality, doesn't it? And it is. It's like it sort of feels like an offering type of. It's very beautiful as an object. The shape, the sort of crown you described. It has a pattern, but it has this sort of like organic shaping as well. I think it's very beautiful. Multiple angles. And she actually has it on a little spinning base, so it can actually be spun around, which is kind of fun. And here's another work that later gets animated. We're going to see. We'll go to the animation soon. We want to make sure we have enough time for that. This is one that it just, boy, it may haunt your visions, you know, for the rest of your life. It's that alive. in the animation. It's already coming to life in the gallery if you get there. I don't know if it comes to life and dances at night, but it might. Watch out, office workers that might tap you on the shoulder. There's a possibility. It's based on obviously a Jack-in-the-Box construction idea. Look at this paper folding. The expertise in paper folding alone would be worth talking about, you know? This is all made out of a found box, if I recall, that you sort of used that you thought was appropriate in feel, and then you kind of constructed some of these gears and all that to get the...
Yes, absolutely. And then I use them in stop motion animation to make the wheels spin. And the other thing that is particular to this piece, compared to the other paper pieces, is that in addition to scoring the paper, which is where the folds are created, I also painted like a very thin bronze line, which makes it look like the face look like a vitrage, you know, like...
I absolutely. It has, and we've talked about before how it has these almost like painting history, like Cubist Harlequin painting references are in there. And yeah, that where you noted the edges is so it's so effective, and you do it in several ways, like you did it down here even, but up here where you sort of note the edge and then fade it out a little. Incredible achievement. They're just, you know, they're really right where they need to be. As in their symbolisms, you know, you sort of really get the different, of course, because you're an author, you're no stranger to the sort of symbolism stuff, I'm sure, and you also know how to make an historical accounting sort of feel the right way. You take care to do these things right. This character, if not correctly cast, you know, wouldn't have the same effect. You get this sort of like French Harlequin quality out of it, and it's just really something.
And on the other side of this box, the creation of the box is also important, because there's a handle there that's suggestive of turning the box, opening the box and closing the box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is being held up by a string very cleverly by Uvi. All of these things are tied to strings, you know, because she animates them as marionettes. And it's amazing, when I went to pick them up, she had them all attached to little notes of what each string does. You know, so there's elaborate sort of planning of that part of it. And then in the installation, we just mounted them hanging from the string, so it has a little bit of sense of popping out of the box. But wait till you see all the possibilities for movement these things have. We could have mounted them in like an infinite different number of ways. Speaking of which, here's this character from the video Shred we're going to see in a little while. And Uvi propped up his hand with a little bit of, is it dainty, or is it like poo-pooing us? We're not really sure. Or hello, you know, I'm not sure.
I think every person can interpret it differently.
I love it.
You can interpret it as go away, or you can interpret it as kiss my hand.
Yeah, I thought it was kiss my hand. Yes, yes. I guess I suppose we all read what we want to read out of someone's how they're looking at us. But no, I think he's a great little character, and I love your choice here. Well, I'll back up again and look at the installation shots, but what we have here are these sort of pedestals that Uvi decided to use that have these kind of like folding like qualities themselves. So they feel like they reference a little bit some of her accordion like folds that she makes and everything. And she mounted this character underneath the Jack-in-the-Box character on the same sort of pedestal standing structure thing. We'll back up and see that again in a minute here, but keep moving forward on the individual works. This is one of the two hanging mobiles. This one's a little bit dark in our view here, but it spins nicely. It's the smaller of the two floating flying fish. This is another character that we're going to see animated later on. This is right in the entry. This one here is the plucked porcupine. Now, I almost feel like what we should do here is just quickly look at these characters, see them animated, and then maybe return to looking at them this way too. So just keep these characters in mind here for a second. The plucked porcupine. And by the way, these are bigger than you think when you see them in photographs. They are actually larger objects than you realize. They are quite amazing achievements of sculpture. Clean, the curved edges. Long, clean curves are some of the hardest things to achieve in all forms of art. So to get that effect is really quite remarkable. This is quite a funny, quirky character too, the plucked porcupine, you know. In another part of
And he's plucked for several reasons. First of all, he doesn't have 4 legs. He only has 3 legs. Second of all, some of his spines have been plucked off. And when we get to the animation, you'll see why it was plucked and who is using those feathers.
And there is a hint right here, and we will see the animation. Yeah, let's start looking at the animations and come back to the rest of the sculptures in a second here. We're going to glimpse at them. Then let's go to the animations and come back. This is just a remarkable achievement of sculpture. But let's go ahead and go all the way to the animations. So we make sure to have enough time for that part of the show. And then we can return to some of the individual looks at the paintings and everything too. And reminding you, you can experience the videos in the context of the show as well by scanning. This is what it looks like. You scan, you know, with your phone app, your mobile phone app, you can scan the QR codes. It will pull up the YouTube link to Uvi's videos. So you can experience these in the gallery. It's fantastic so that we can have the whole, we don't have the luxury of having a monitor.
Dust.
We don't have the luxury of having a monitor in the space. So that's our way of being able to experience the videos that way. But we're also, we're in this hybrid situation. So we get this great opportunity to watch them here online. You can always view them through our show here. We have them hosted, all of them except for one that we didn't have access to, but we have a link to on YouTube. But all 6 of these videos, or 7 of them, are here on the site. So let's start with this one, Dust. And we remember seeing the bronze sculpture a moment ago. Well, wait until you see this.
Dust.
From dust you gather me. I beg you on my knee. Look away. Imagine me the way I used to be. Now shadows spread upon me, stain by stain. I shiver. Touch me, heal me, make me whole again.
I see him in my mind. He moves, he stirs tonight. But when I come to him, our limbs entwined, that arm wraps around me. It holds me and controls me. Can we take flight?
In darkness, take a leap, for trust is blind. Imagine me. I'll lift you, caress you, and possess you. Imagine us, in passion and in sweep, our limbs entwined.
Pressed against that rib cage where not a breath escapes, not a sigh of sorrow, not a cry of rage. How can I bear his silence when shadows grow immense?
If shadows peel and lift away, if ever you break free from my embrace, if you catch sight of me in light of day, go, leave me here, my grace, in my debris.
In my dream, I'm soaring amidst a flap of wings, my heart so light, so happy, forgetting him, ignoring that arm wrapped around me, how heavily it clings.
Go, my spirit crushed and humble, no feeling left, no lust, abandoned here to crumble, not strong enough to blow these fading marks of footfalls, your footfalls, off my dust.
I will not let you blur these traces in my mind of the way we were, our limbs entwined. I miss you, still resist you. Forgive me, for I must gather you so gently from the dust.
I mean, they're just like, this is a stunner. Well, we can go into some of the details about how you constructed it, but I think it'd be more interesting first to hear about some of your ideas, thematically speaking, about this one.
Well, it's, let me say that the first thing in creating an animation is always start from the words. So this poem that I wrote while creating the bronze piece, the first bronze piece in the series, is where we have to, the animation has to start. It's not from the images, because the images are created by the imagery of the words. So each line in this poem, and sometimes each expression in each line, creates a certain vision in my mind. And that vision is what I am trying to bring to life. And this is a relationship between two figures. One of them used to be strong and is now nearing the end of his life. And both of them are undergoing a certain arc of emotions, both within themselves and in relationship to each other. And it is the drama of this contrast between them and coming to accept each other at the very end of the poem.
And accept themselves on some level, and it's amazing to. And by the way, we're going to see the sensibility range. We're going to see that she will be a playful poet in a moment, but this one has a little bit of a more, well, I wouldn't say it's without play, but it certainly is a little bit more of a serious drama than some of the other animations. Would you say that?
Yes. Yeah, this one is devoid of humor, let me say that.
Yeah.
It's very serious. It's almost a plea from him. And also the way this poem is written, he is talking to her. She's not talking to him. It's almost like most of the poem, she's not even aware that he can hear her and respond to her until we get to the very end of the poem, which is where she tells him, I will not let you forget the moments that our limbs were entwined together, the moments that we were in love. But up to that point in the poem, she's not talking to him. She's talking about him in the third sense.
Mm-hmm. And the sort of loss and disconnect and the entropy and all the things that are tragic within this, and of course the dance being the sort of catalyst for their experience, is unbelievable. And now we've discussed some of that thematically. Let's also note, is it true that you, if I recall, you had the bronze sculpture? Now this, she cannot animate the bronze sculpture, folks. Like literally speaking, she can't do stop motion animation with the bronze completely. You did some effects of that type with the bronze using digital results that you figured out, but you also do I recall that you also made new versions of the clay sculptures too?
Yes, I made a mini-me version of both the male figure and the female figure, just so that I can move them. So they're based, their inside is basically a wire, a metal wire that I can bend into shape and change with every minute change in motion that ends up doing the motion. But even I mean, I did the animation both ways, both with the clay sculpture where I moved the clay, moved the arm, and took a picture with each, angle of the movement. But also, I also took a picture of the bronze and then moved it digitally. Meaning I selected a certain area and then moved it and then corrected the connection between the part that I moved and the part that is still stable.
And that allowed you to do certain types of movements, but other things you had to construct out of clay to do other types of movements. And it works perfectly, because there are times when it just really feels like the bronze has come to life and has started to dance. I mean, it's so well done in that regard. Presumably because of the combination of those plays that you did both things. You actually have the bronze in there, and you animate it sometimes as much as that's possible to do in digital sort of processes. And then you did the clay step to get some of the actual dancing motion movement,
Right.
which is unbelievable.
And sometimes I had to resort to some inventive ways of animation. For example, where there's a scene in this video where she's hopping and turning backwards into his arms. And that is hard to achieve, because how do you display her flying in the air?
Oh, the flying in the air one. This is remarkable. This one?
Um,
Which one? This moment here? No.
well, she's standing with her back to the camera, and she's it's earlier. It should be
Okay. Sorry. Let's see if we can find. If you see down here, tell me where to stop.
there. You just passed it. Yeah. Just show it to me.
In darkness, take a leap, for trust is blind. Imagine me. I'll lift you, caress you, and
Wow. Wow.
So that little scene took a lot of work, because for each position of her flying in the air and turning backwards into his arms, I used a harness. I basically used my armature and created a harness for her to be hung in the air in that position, and then took a picture and then moved it a little bit and took another picture and another and another and another.
And then later edited out the harness, of course. And
yeah, exactly. Then I had to wipe away, and so that it feels like she's really flying in the air and not hung in the air.
Plus all the incredible animation effects of using the dust particles and the that sort of romantic version of sort of desert dust sort of thing in the air. And then you have the kind of the different text choices that have been made, like for the font, the choices for how to blend from scene to scene, editing wise, like decisions on the cadence of the voices that have to read this. It's an unbelievable achievement, folks. And she's also cast actors, of course, to play the voice characters, and presumably taken several takes to get that right, probably, or what have you, and directed it into where it needed to be. So, I mean, this is like, I think usually you take at least 6 months to achieve one of these, or something along those
I
lines.
think I did this one in 3 months.
Wow.
But the scene that I love the most about this animation, it's one thing to make them move, even in inventive ways, but the real challenge for me was to make it feel like they are emoting, they are feeling. And there's this line where she says, "I will not let you forget," and she's hugging him. And that's the moment I like the most in this, because it really feels that she has an inner life. I think it's about the, anyway.
Me, for I might be were our limbs entwined.
The one.
I miss you, still resist you.
They're unbelievably human. I mean, right? They're just completely injected with emotion and potent drama and beauty. It's remarkable. Let's go on to the next one. Forgive me, as soon as I click over, they kind of start. So this next one here is a little shorter. It does have one of our characters, our paper characters in it from the show. This one's called Shred.
At first, I am nothing, a shred of a shred, not alive, not even dead, an inanimate object lying limp in your hands, dreaming of oceans, of faraway lands. When you cut me, I won't even cry. You flesh me through pain. I won't utter a sigh. You give me breath. You make me blink. But I cringe when you paint me pink. You give me eyesight. You give me smell. You control every move. So I must rebel. I'll rise to a limp, and in search of glory, I'll take my own steps, write my own story. My existence is flimsy. I am destined to fold. But until that time, let me out of your hold. Let me go, let me go. Loosen your grip until that moment that ends with a rip.
I love the music, how it sets this drama, but also you know, I'm noting the themes that we've seen in a couple, both these back-to-back works, and then we'll see another time, at least one more time, where the conversation of being held down and breaking free, this sort of marionette, like being held by strings, but wanting to come, you know, get its own control of its own sentience or what have you, I think is remarkable in relationship to what we saw previously of the dancers and the sort of maybe wanting to be free of the binding feel of the arm that was holding the female character or something in that case. I think there's an interesting juxtaposition of those characters, maybe. I don't know. Is that something that you would agree with?
Absolutely. First of all, I would agree with any interpretation. I mean, it's what it means to you, what it means to the viewer. It doesn't necessarily has to be exactly the same as my interpretation. In my mind, it was a conversation between the creator and the piece he's creating that wants to be independent. And this can be a conversation between us and God, or the artist and a piece she's creating. And I, you know, in this case, I have a certain relationship to paper because I like paper so much. And I like working with paper. I like writing on paper. So that's why this character named Shred came to life in my mind. It's the life of a piece of paper.
And what about the fragility? Isn't it interesting to be working in both bronze, which is like as permanent as it gets, and then paper, which is the opposite in a way as far as sculpture is concerned. How about that? Is there something interesting to you about some of the characters being more fragile than others, or is the permanence of the bronze, is there still fragility in those characters regardless?
Absolutely, there is fragility in both materials. And in general, I think that I like, I don't like to repeat the same thing. I like when I work with a certain medium, when I'm done with a project, I say to myself, I cannot continue in this particular medium because I've achieved whatever I wanted with this piece, and I'm depleted in this area. So I turn to exactly the opposite, like from bronze to paper, or from watercolor to oil, and vice versa. I always look for something that I haven't done before and where I can challenge myself.
Well, no wonder. Of course, that's consistent with how you've approached being an artist and a writer and a human. And yeah, you just continue to challenge yourself. I love that. Now let's go to the next animation, and we will note how each one's totally different. The one before was this this real work of stop motion animation that had to be done, technically speaking. This one, most of the work is done in terms of motion within the object itself by constructing the marionette. And there are some that kind of combine those elements. Let's see. Eyes fallen shut.
Eyes fallen shut. If my eyes fall shut, there's no darkness around me. The walls tumble away. I'm not locked in a box. If my ears turn deaf, there's no suffering. I'm free of this incessant ticking of silenced blank clocks. Cursed to wait, still longer to dart. But someone out there releases a grip. Now I sense a slight spin. A hinge is stirring. A start. As my lid cranks, cracks, creaks open, out I slip. Ready or not, here I come. What a loud pop. Do I strike fear? Make your heart freeze? Held up ever so briefly. How soon shall I drop? Back into oblivion. Back into a squeeze. Till I'm found again, forgotten, confined. I'll be dreaming of you. Your eyes fallen shut.
That one might be my favorite. I don't know. It's hard for me to decide, but I really find that one to be fun. And obviously, it's really a culmination. This one being completed very recently in 2024 of several of your skill sets here, because you're combining some of the digital animation results in such, I think even possibly more effectively than in Dust in terms of like really uniting your processes here into something seamless. All the graphics in this one, the moments where it comes on and says, you know, asks if he strikes fear in our hearts and stares at the screen is just a remarkable moment. I don't know. I just think this one's really something. Tell us, like, how you know, again, like there's this sort of consistent character logic of wanting to be free to get out of a box, to find its own will. I'm really interested in some of that. I'm also interested in how you stage certain things. Like we talked about this before, the inside of the box. We imagine the inside of the box being this sort of like, oh, here it is, a good shot of it. This dark space that this character has to forever exist in until someone else frees him or them. And, you know, just finally that's what they're dependent on. And then they get shoved down in the box again. What an ability that you have to put us in the place of this character, but also give that character a little mystery and drama and tooth and edge that makes it a little bit not just a victim, but maybe something more.
Yeah. Well, first of all, about the challenge of how to film him when he's inside of the box, because at this point, when he's inside the box, it would be hard for me to move him in a convincing way. And also there would be a problem with lighting and so on. So my solution was, when he's inside, the lines that he is reading while inside of the box and waiting to be released, I've made them blue, because darkness is a little blue. We see more blue in the dark. And once he is out of the box, the atmosphere is more golden, more bright. So that's a hint where when he gets out of the box, we see more light and it's more golden. Then in terms of this is my latest video, and it's really done in layers. So there's, in terms of the audio, there's a layer, one layer is the voice actor reading the lines. Another layer is the sounds of the hinge turning and the popping and all of that. So I basically collect voices and noises by Googling them. And I listen to a lot of versions of popping and of grinding and so on. And I select the ones that will work together in this composition of sound that accompanies the reading. The same thing goes for the animation itself, the visual. There's the graphic layer where I have the graphic eyes, the circles, and at the end there's this symbol of infinity, because he's waiting for infinity to be released again. And so this poem basically talks about the hollowness of our lives, where we wait for something to happen, and we wait and we wait. And then once it's happened, it happens, within a second, and we're back to the same situation again, where we're waiting to be released again.
Remarkable. I mean, and how compelling the character is for me, because again, like, I can empathize with the character, but I also have this quality of being a little terrified of its sort of drama, and the potential for what a character is capable of when it gets to see the light for only a minute at a time, for years. It's very interesting to think about. And so I think all these characters are so nuanced and rich and constructed with sort of, layers of meaning that I think is really remarkable. Let's continue to watch as we are running short, and make sure as we get as much time as possible to see these. One more. Tango.
No more idle time and no more blues. I'll curl up my mustache, put on dancing shoes. I need someone. You? Whose heart I can steal. For heaven's sake, don't make me kneel.
I dab some perfume just under my ear as soon as I laid eyes on you, dear. You move with panache, with such elegant flair. I adore your bald spot, your dwindling hair.
Yes, I think of myself as a dashing young man. No surprise you came over as the music began. My aftershave is intoxicating. I am in such bliss. As I lean over, shall I give you a kiss?
I painted my lips, put a rose in my hair. My bosom is plump, my arms are bare. As I cling to you, what a tall, gentle man. Can you hear my heart? Hold me tight if you can.
I sway on my feet, then leap into the air. Come tango with me, if only you dare. Hang on my arm, let me lead step by step. Oh, my darling, now your weight I must schlep.
And there is playful Uvi Poznansky right there. Still talking about relationships in this work. Obviously, playfully characterizing some of that. Yes.
Yes.
I assume this is you would now it's funny because like we have two dancing scenes that we've witnessed. Do you think of them as in relationship at all, or completely different stories?
I think they're completely different. First of all, the feel is completely different. It's more humorous, it's lighter. But also, they don't take themselves seriously. I mean, he's very pretentious and thinks of himself like he's the greatest ladies' man ever born. And she goes along with it. And I think it was just all in great fun. The techniques that I used were similar. I also the beginning of this animation is a bronze sculpture that I made. It's about yay high, like that. It's a smaller piece, and I had to create a mini-me piece so that I can animate it in oil-based clay, and yeah. And you can imagine that with every movement, like if he's moving an arm, cracks start being created in the clay sculpture. And so I need to fix it after every little movement. I need to fix every joint in his body or her body. Either really in the clay, I need to fix it, or in the image, I can Photoshop the cracks. So it's a lot of work either way.
And so it actually is the clay sculpture that you used, that you finalized as a clay sculpture as well. And did you make a bronze out of that in the end? No.
No, I have a bronze.
You did make a bronze out of it.
The beginning of it is a bronze piece. Actually, it was a clay piece that I cast in bronze.
Gotcha. You didn't use plastic. You didn't use oil-based clay this time. You used actual clay.
I did use. In addition to the bronze, I used the clay, because the clay is the one where they're facing each other, and you can't put a camera in between to see each one of them reacting. So that I needed two pieces that will work together, and either together or apart.
Sorry, I was just asking if you had mentioned that you use oil-based clay to avoid the cracking, and I was wondering if you had done this one in another type of clay before you started using oil-based clay, but it still had more cracking before it moves, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you shouldn't call it cracking, but it's the opening of the joint.
Of course, yes. Yeah, and then are the colored effects happening on the clay, or are you actually doing some of that digitally as well?
No, I don't do it digitally. When I created the oil-based clay, I painted over it to match the bronze, because the bronze has a patina.
Gotcha. And you can really see that patina. And in this one, it's interesting because in this one, there's less of an understanding that it is the sculpture to begin with. With dust, there's such a specificity to that object as a sculpture. This one seems to be less dependent on us knowing that it was a sculpture to begin with, but it is interesting now that we know that, because there's a consistent logic, which we brought up in the press release, of you bringing your sculptures to life, having them dance and perform and live, and then also be sculptural objects independently of that. Awesome. Let's keep
I wouldn't even call it bringing the sculptures to life, because to me, they are alive. It's more helping others around me to realize that they're breathing.
There you go. Well, we gave the office workers a warning for the Jack in the Box. They know it's alive. All right. Let's, there's a couple more videos we want to make sure to catch. They're all incredible.
A diamond short, a decade late. I come to stand outside your gate. Unlock and open, let me in. Give me love. What is my sin? I fled from you across the land, but now I ask you for your hand. A decade late, a diamond short. Can't imagine why you snort. My limbs are frail, my breath is cold. I must admit I may look old. I fall, I kneel, Why, I implore, you are the woman I adore. I feel so brittle. Don't I? I may be impotent a little. You loved me once, or so I thought. Stop. Take your fingers off my throat.
I think some of these are so funny. And that the movement of that figure. Now let's go ahead and go back just for a second here, and that's not what I meant to do. To go back to what had been mentioned before about the painting in the entryway. This that was one that we wanted to juxtapose to the sculpture that is animated just now, that paper sculpture that we just saw. And that character is the one that sort of, in a way, in an ineffectual a lover attempt or something, whatever that means as a metaphor or whatever it is. But it's this character that has come, yes, a diamond short and a decade late. And it's, in this case, Uvi was describing, I don't know if you could see before because it was a little small, there was this ring without a diamond being hurled back at this skeleton, this pompous skeleton who's arrived with sort of like, nice scarf and everything, but it doesn't realize how ineffectual he is or something in this case. And very interesting sort of character consistency of that type, that, like, there's this sort of idea of the pompous character who thinks that their arrival is going to be enough regardless. And often it's not enough. And I think it's a great theme and an interesting theme that we can use across many topics that you've played with in a lot of different ways, that I think is really, really playful and fun. And we can see it. And like she talked about this one being like, she was worried it would feel morbid in the entry because it's a skeleton. And I thought, like, no, this is a funny work to me. This is humorous. And
yeah, I was worried about it being too morbid, especially for an entrance piece. But I think the saving grace is that it creates a relationship between the viewer, who is the girlfriend, the old girlfriend who has been waiting patiently all these years and carving these words along the doorpost, and is now realizing that she's waited for nothing. So the viewer is part of this painting. The viewer is the one waiting. The viewer is the one rejecting him.
And I think about that waiting theme, like the Jack in the Box, like waiting for this moment and building it up in your mind. And it doesn't have to be relationship specific, as some of the themes comically were, but the idea of waiting for your moment and building it up in your mind as the thing, and maybe wasting your life waiting for it, and putting that as the thing, the only thing you're looking towards. And then it arrives and it's ineffectual, or it's a lie, or it's something that you made up in your own mind, or whatever it is, and you've wasted your life waiting for it. I mean, what a great theme that we can all relate to on some level, I think, and in one way or another. Let's continue. There's a couple more animations. I did want to just note, though, real quickly, the animation on the hand is unbelievable to me. That achievement of sculpture, of engineering, is really something. I also love the loud noises in this one, the intentionally loud movements that make me feel like there's such a herky jerkiness to this character. And it's paper, so it wouldn't make that much noise as it's shuffling around, but there's just this kind of robotic sound thing going on in that's really interesting to me. And yeah, just the achievement of sculpture, folks, all the movements are really remarkable in this character. To get all the expressions it's getting, it's something. You'll see it in person. It feels like this character is sitting right there. It's bigger than you think. Amazing achievement of sculpture and of animation, I think. Now, it's really different and it's a little bit longer. I don't think we'll watch the whole thing, maybe. Let's watch part of it so we can make sure to get to everything else too. But it's a little bit different context. Would you like to go start in the middle and go to the end, Ubi, or would you like to start at the beginning? Or
Either way, it's basically a work of love for my granddaughter. When she was born, she didn't smile for a few weeks, and this was created as a response to that.
And Wiggle by Safda Uvi. Once there was a little girl with the cutest reddish curl. Her name, how could you guess? It was simple, Jess. You could hop, you could flop, spin around like a top. Jess would not give a hoot if you stood on one foot. For with her, it was simple. Not a smile, not a dimple. You could puff, you could puff. Jess would not even laugh. It's half. You are not funny enough. Why, you ask? Was she said? Were your jokes flatly bad? Jess would not give a giggle. Till the day she met Wiggle. It was really quite a shock. Something buried in her sock. Something seemed to dance, then dangle. Something wrinkled round her ankle. She almost caught it by her toe, but it quickly gave a bow. It would roll and it would rock inside that sock, as if to mock. What a laugh. You are not funny enough. That was Ushla, plain and simple. Just be quick, just be nimble. Peel that wiggle off your heel. Catch it, fetch it, make it kneel. Look, it lifted off the sock, flew it into the lock, back under the threshold, and then clap. Jess caught Wiggle in a snap. It made no move. It was so still. Not a quiver, nothing, nil. Quickly wiggle under her thumb, not a whisper, not a hum. Just go wiggle, talk, 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 and double tickle. She shook her head and said, so you up already? Yes or no? Can't you see my reddish curl? I am one determined girl.
I love it. We could watch the whole thing. I wish we could. We probably want to make sure we see everything and just come back and watch the rest of it, please. But it's a masterful work because it's like it's a child's book come to life. First of all, you have all the signs of children's sort of storytelling in that. All the sort of illustration styles really right on. Even the font. I really love, and obviously you're an author who understands a children's book anyways, so you knew how to do that, but to animate it like this, which I can only imagine what it meant to Jess, right? And I'm sure you share this with her I mean, what an incredible thing.
Absolutely. And in terms of the font for this particular children's book, some of the words graphically suggest what they mean. For example, the word spin spins around itself. The word not is like a stop sign. The word you has a end pointing at you. So for every word that I could suggest a design, I did.
How thoughtful. I mean, how, and this is like the detail level we're talking about here, right? That this is a person who is obviously has great ideas, has great execution, is willing to go to every level of detail to make this mastery, occur. And she's not going to cut any corner. This is going to be done right all the way through. And every time it's a different sensibility. She's able to get different moods struck. And this one's really an amazing achievement. And what a gift for someone. I think it's really beautiful. There's another one along those lines that we probably won't get a chance to see today as much, but let's just glimpse it. And this one's in a similar vein, maybe a story that has children. Story connotation.
Rustling in the
A little
rain,
bit of it.
leaves were swirling all around. I heard soft footsteps up the lane. Snap, a twig fell, and I turned just to feel your little foot, just to touch your hand. I yearned as you climbed my gnarled roots.
And that one is also an incredible achievement. It's poetic, it's beautiful. I'm going to post the link to it on YouTube. We don't actually have it hosted on our site right now because we didn't have the actual file for it, but we do have the ability to showcase it through the gallery. We have it on the QR code there, or I will also post it as a link on here. But I did want to make sure, Uvi, that we saw all the way through Flux Porcupine here, which is one of my favorites as well. So here's one last animation or video. I suppose this one's less of an animation. One more video from Uvi here, and we'll look at a couple more things on the way out.
I miss the swish of grass and flower, the crunch of twigs, no pangs, no hunger. That place is found. I must not pine for a poor, plucked porcupine. I watch out for the angry poet. I stumble back, too late to exit. She glares at me, at these sharp spines. Her ink has spilled, so here she whines. I hate to wish her ill. She writes this poem with my quill.
I think that one's really great too. Plucked Porcupine, I think is, as far as the characters that you've invented, the Plucked Porcupine might be my favorite one. I think it's really funny and playful. Talk about an exposed character that used to have virility and strength and defenses up and has been plucked to the point of vulnerability, and continues to be so. I think it's really, really playful, but powerful in a way too, because that's, I mean, obviously we can relate to being an exposed character, Other thoughts about that video for us, or should we look at some of the other works in the show on the way out that we have to see? Let's go ahead and make sure that we note that I have also put up a bunch of video stills from the videos, so you can watch the videos on here, but I just think that each shot is very beautiful. So if you want to come back and look at them sort of still by still as well, you might be interested in that. There's some really beautiful compositional things that occur. But yes, let's go ahead and look at some of the other works that we didn't get a chance to. We saw in the animation, this incredible, this might be the most amazing achievement of paper folding. I don't know, there's so many in the show. But the way that the spine moves on this, Uvi decided to hang this as a mobile right near the ventilation system. We have a little bit of air movement, and the fish is constantly swimming. It's really something, folks. Go ahead and check it out. When I needed to document the show, there was an endless array of ways to shoot it because this was just in constant motion in a really beautiful way. We also, it's not just the case that we barely got to talk about any of the painting work yet. And there are some absolute stunners in this show in that regard too. Excuse me, this is glitch. There we go. And let's go ahead and at least note a couple of them. Well, look at this. I thought it was glitching. There we go. This is a triptych. This work is called, which is interesting to me because I noted in the video of Jess and Wiggle that there's this sort of animation of this piece of sort of like stringer fabric or playful thing. And then you referred in this work, this one's I think called "This Tissue Is Me." There's this sense of like anthropomorphizing obviously paper, but also the sort of movement of the tissue or fabric or something like that, bringing that to life.
Or actually
is alive. Yeah.
This arrangement actually was inspired by a session of drawing a live model in Emeritus, and she came with a piece of fabric that she played with. And some of these poses are really not something that I've painted here, that I've drawn here, but the way my mind continues to create this composition, this dance that she was going through. Usually a triptych in history is used for altars, and this is anything but a religious piece. So again, this was inspired by a poem called "This Tissue Is Me," and it says, "I dance with abandon, with no inhibition, entangled in fabric, I can no longer flee, can't breathe, for now I can sense a strange fusion. Now I know this tissue is me." So this is the last verse of this poem.
And again, I think we post some of this with the work. I mean, it seems so related to, for you. I don't think that would apply for all artists, but for you, the poetry sometimes really relates to the work and the painting work or the sculpture work, the artwork. And sometimes they're collapsing literally in the animations. So very interesting. Now, you've also decided to really push a sort of like limited palette in this one. And I'm interested in the ways that you deal with even like color. We haven't got a chance to even talk about you as a painter in here yet, folks. Like, she's an incredible painter. Look at the mastery of these. You might have seen this one in the Student Art Show last year. Here is its sort of pair in the series. They're not necessarily diptychs or anything, but they're related works in a series. Here's the one that we might have seen in the Student Art Show, which depicts a space upstairs at Emeritus campus on 2nd Street. You might recognize some of this in a clearly
It actually depicts three spaces. One is the view of the corridor on the 2nd story. One is a view of the staircase going downstairs, and one is a view of the room where the course was taking place. And you can see my easel in the corner where I'm drawing the same ceiling as is described here.
I love it.
And the perspective that I'm using here is not the classic one with which I'm very familiar as a previous architect, but rather it's called fisheye perspective, where all the lines, the vertical lines, when you look at them going down, they go down to hell. They converge in one point way down below. And when you look up, they converge in heaven. And so this creates a world that is very, you can see, under your feet, and you can see above your head. The space really hugs you in every possible way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, it has this almost like impossible quality of perspective, but yeah, all that fisheye effect is collaged together. So it almost has a sense of we are in one real space, but it's like we're seeing multiple perspectives and all that, and they're all fisheyed. And then this one is consistent with that logic a little bit too. The fisheye, sort of triple fisheye sort of logic of the composition here.
It's based on the same drawing. I told myself you know, the first painting that you just saw has a very sparse quality to it. There's no life in it. There's just architecture. And I said to myself, what if you turn off the light and you let characters come out of the darkness? And so every line here is basically a cable or a pipe.
Uh-huh.
Even a shadow becomes a pipe, not only a line. Even a corner becomes, everything becomes pipes, and it creates a kind of a golden cage upon which these characters are hanging and pondering their purpose in life.
This is a stunner, folks. I mean, like it's amazing to get to the end, to have such a show that we barely had time to talk about these paintings really says something, I think. I mean, these could hold the room by themselves. They're remarkable achievements in painting. The drama in here is really something. And then the play, each character has an expression. They're communicating with each other in certain ways. They have their own being. And these are these interesting sort of cinematic compositions, these wide ones. I think there's all types of interest in these two works. I could stare at them all day. I encourage you to please do so. But we do need to move a little bit quickly here at the end, and we will just get to the last couple of things to make sure we note them. And then please, folks, if you must run, we will see you next time. Thank you for coming to share with us tonight. You must go to see this in person if you can, please. And I did see, we saw all kinds of comments in the chat from people supportive of this beautiful exhibition. We appreciate that. I know Uvi.
I did see all the comments. I didn't have time to comment back.
I know, yes, I didn't get to look at them specifically yet, but I just wanted to note a couple on the way out, just a couple of last works here, and just to show what Uvi's willing to take on as far as the depth of emotional drama that she's willing to tackle in a huge social way, like these works about Katrina and the earthquake in Haiti, very profound, powerful works where she's willing to take on really heavy subject matter. And you could see that she goes all the way from the plucked porcupine to these really heavy places with a real graceful presence as an artist, So please go spend some time with this work. There's one other last one that we didn't get to see there, hiding away near the entryway as well, which is a beauty. But Uvi Poznansky, I think we should just, clap, first of all. What an achievement of an exhibition, but this is just scratching the surface of what you are as a contributor to culture. Thank you for everything you do in that regard.
Thank you, Jesse, for hosting and helping me to arrange everything. Really appreciate it.
Well, it was we've known that it's pretty much the first time I met you. I knew you were going to get a show eventually. And then the student body started asking me, when is the Uvi show happening? Basically. And so it was overdue at this point. But please go in the show, watch the videos while you're there, spend more time with it. Thank you so much for this special contribution to the gallery. Awesome stuff. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Guadalupe, so much for hosting us.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you. And I also just wanted to let everyone know, I think I saw some of you guys there. We had the 50th anniversary kickoff last Tuesday, and we're going to be having celebrations throughout the year. Our next one is RSVP already closed, unfortunately, but it's a field trip to Malibu. But there will be similar field trips throughout the semester, and as well as other things to keep up with. I believe the webpage for the 50th should be up, if not now, probably by Monday. Right, but yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Uvi. Thank you, Jesse. Will's, Lindsay, as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So much, Lindsay Wilson. Thank you. All right, everybody. Great seeing you. We'll see you in a month for Akemi Watanabe, one of our other great emeritus students. Please
Are you going to share the recording, please?
We're going to put, the way the recording works is that we always, maybe it'll be about a week or so we'll have it, or a couple of days, and I'll post it on the website, okay?
Thank you. It was amazing.
I'm so pleased that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uvi.
For asking.
Unbelievable. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow, firing
Thank you for
beyond
coming.
words.
Congratulations, Uvi. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.